Welcome everybody to this last installment of The Last Dance. This is The Last Dance. Um, Man, it was okay. Let me put it this way. It wasn't what I was expected, but it was what I expected. What I mean by that is I expected a lot more of behind the scenes. Them at practice. Them at practices before games, stuff like that. They did open that up a little bit. For the most part, I mean, they kind of just told the story. I enjoyed the way they told the story. I liked how they went in the present of that season and then were able to backtrack and then from there do side stories and talk about a few players, different players. But there wasn't much that I didn't learn or that I didn't know already. But I did learn in the episode 9 about Steve Kerr. I did not know that his father was shot as well. That was very sad to hear, and I did not know that. I don't know if him and Jordan talked about that with each other. Maybe they could have bonded on that. I'm not sure. Or maybe it was just too much to talk about, to deal with, because I'm sure for both it was probably very hard. So that was one thing that I did learn new. Other than that, I knew everything about each game, behind the scenes, that this person didn't like this person got punched, we knew all that. Like I said, I would have just liked to see more about the practices between them, and behind the scenes stuff. But I guess I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it just brought back so many memories. For me, it was great. It was great to see it again. And I hope people don't see this as to open up a debate. I don't think it was for that. I don't think it was like, oh, so who's greater now, LeBron or Jordan or Kobe? None of that. It was just, a lot of people forget about Jordan or don't really know about him. So this was a good way. I would have loved to see a documentary like this on Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, even Magic, even Larry Bird. I would have loved to see those. Unfortunately, that wasn't a thing back then. Maybe, I'm not sure. I still don't know why they decided to do this, why they decided to record this. But I'm glad they did. So one of the things that I listened to another radio or a sports show, and one of the things was interesting, and it kind of changed my point of view on things, was that maybe it wasn't Krause who was the bad guy, and maybe it was Phil Jackson who's the one who wanted to end everything. He wanted to build this anticipation. Maybe it was his way of playing mind games. This I just thought of right now, actually. Maybe Phil Jackson didn't think they could win another championship. Maybe he thought they were too old already. Maybe he doubted Jordan. So by playing mind games with them and telling them that this is the last dance, like, we have to do this, maybe that was his way of cementing that legacy and making sure that it ended as good as good a way as it could, because he had the chance to come back. It turns out that Reinsdorf did ask Phil if he wanted to come back. He said no again. He said no. He kept saying Jordan was, done. He needed a break, or he was done, and he had the chance to come back and he didn't. So I don't know. Maybe he was already thinking about heading over to the Lakers. Maybe he saw their potential. Think about it. You have your star is 34, 35. Yeah, he's the greatest player ever. But at some point he's gonna get old. He's gonna slow down. Maybe he had two more years in him, maybe, but you have to set up your future. And I feel if Phil Jackson would have stuck around for 2 more years with the Bulls, maybe he would have gone to the Lakers eventually. But who knows? So maybe he had that in mind. Maybe he'd already been talking to the Lakers under the table. He just said, let me take 1 year off, because he took 1 year off, which is not a very long time, takes 1 year off, then comes back. Rest is history. Gets a prime Shaq, a young Kobe, molds Kobe, turns him into, what he is, leaves, then comes back to coach again, and then wins 2 more championships. So in all, he won 11 championships. So, maybe that was his way of playing mind games to making sure that dynasty was going to end, the way that it should. Now that I'm thinking about it, because he was like that. He was a master of mind games, and that's what he liked to do. So kind of makes sense. And they talked about, I heard this story. They talked about at after they won the 6th championship, they got together and they all said some words on a piece of paper, and then they burned it in this coffee can. And Jordan actually had written a poem, and all the teammates were shocked to hear that, because they had not seen him in that light. So it was kind of new for them to see that. But yeah, so maybe that was just Phil Jackson's way of, manipulating in a way. Because, in a way, that's kind of what his job he had to do. He thought he had to do was manipulate, convince you to do stuff. And even Jordan said so himself. And then, Rodman's relationship with him, I don't know what he was doing, Phil Jackson was doing to get these people to, commit to him. These big stars, these big egos, would almost bow at his feet and do everything he said. And there's a little moment where Rodman went to go wrestle with Hulk Hogan, and then he came back to practice, and they were just kind of making fun of him, and he asked Dickie Simpkins if he was there at the beginning of practice, because they got to hit Dennis Rodman a few times, and then you hear Jordan saying Rodzilla, calling him Rodzilla because that was his wrestling name. And that scene right there was kind of, I like that, because I feel like other teams, people would be mad if one of their players didn't go to practice and skipped it and was on live TV on wrestling or something, something crazy like that. So to see how the Bulls handled that and how they handled Dennis Rodman, I think was great. Like I said, I don't know why Isaiah Thomas had such a problem with the way the Bulls were with Rodman. He's a grown man. He does what he wants. No matter what, he's going to do what he wants. And I felt they loved him. I feel Rodman really idolized Jordan. Not like a fan, but, kind of like, we're on the same level. He's my brother type, relationship. And you could tell he claims he's the greatest player of all time, and he's played against and played with some good players. So it was a weird dynamic that this team had, if you think about it. And you have all these stars, all these egos, and somehow they came together and were able to make it work. So that was awesome to see, man. Like looking back at that, because when you're watching it, as I got to watch it, I was young, but still, I could comprehend stuff and I could, see stuff. But back then, when growing up, it was hard to look that deep and stuff. I wasn't into that, looking deeper into things yet. Obviously, I'm too little, but I could comprehend stuff. So you could see this relationship, this duo of Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. You could see how close they were. There was a moment in game 1 that I wish they were going to show. Because they definitely showed this on TV if you rewatch game 1, where Jordan had hit a few shots in a row, and they even showed him on the documentary. He entered that series so relaxed and so like in a good mood, happy. It was different for him. You could tell it was different. It wasn't like, this is business. I gotta go in there, focus like straight. It was like, oh, I'm focused, but I can have fun too. So he went. There's a moment where he hit a few shots in game one, and then he's asking for the ball, and it's like a close game at the end, and Scottie Pippen takes a three and hits it, and Jordan went up to him and still, chewed him out like, give me the ball, and Pippen's like, yo, Mike, like I just hit a three, it tied it up, and Jordan did not care. He wanted that ball. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of players right now aren't like that. They don't want the ball. They don't demand the ball in those crucial moments. So that was a cool thing that I wish they would have showed, that I remember clearly from watching that. But these two, man, what they did was great. Jordan said a line in there that, they can't win unless they quit. So obviously Jordan was a little upset, and he talked a little bit about that at the end, that he's still mad that after all these years, he's still mad that they didn't get to play for a 7th or, 8th championship, which I really think he believes that he could have won more until, his body just said, I'm done. Who knows what would have happened? I think they could have pulled out the 7th because it was a shortened season. That would have helped the older legs, have a little bit more time to rest. And not only that, the season wouldn't be as long, 50 games plus the playoffs. And then if you look at it again, like I said, you had the Knicks, who I forgot were in the 8th spot and made it all the way to the finals from the East. The 8th spot. That should have been Indiana Pacers. That should have been their year. But they didn't capitalize on it. And then, they run into the Lakers the next year when they actually did make it to the finals. But yeah, so it's just a lot of stuff. They also talked about the flu game in episode 9, which was funny. And then they interviewed the pizza guy a lot in other shows, on sports shows, and he said that he was a Bulls fan. He even named his child, his middle name was Jordan, so it wasn't, basically he claimed it wasn't the pizza. He made sure that they didn't touch it, they didn't do anything wrong with it. He got to deliver it, and it wasn't 5 guys who delivered it like the Jordan's trainer said. It was just him and another guy, because that was his first delivery. And obviously if you're training, you got someone shadowing you, looking over you, making sure you're doing everything right. So we still don't know the truth. What I think is they stayed up too long, playing cards, dominoes, whatever, gambling, and Jordan, they've been drinking. I mean, what do you crave? It was weird that he ate pizza, because I know Jordan had a strict diet supposedly, and it shocked me that the trainer would let him eat Pizza Hut, of all things, before a game or whatever. I would think the trainer would tell him not to do that, but maybe it was like, okay, you need to soak up this alcohol because you got a game tomorrow. And then he woke up hungover or whatever. I don't know. Who cares? It happens. And some people say like, how can you be hungover that bad? I've been hungover that bad that it takes me a whole day to recover. So I definitely know how that feels. I guess we'll never know. I don't think they're ever going to come out and say that. For some reason, they have an agreement or a contract or something where they can't talk about it, or they're just sticking to that story. But the pizza guy said he doesn't think he cooked it. He made sure it looked nice and everything was great. He didn't want no one else to touch it because he thought they're going to do something to it, which I still don't even believe that could happen, because it's like, why would you risk getting in trouble? Or worse, what if you killed the greatest athlete of all time for being stupid just to, win a basketball game? That would be dumb. So I still don't think it was food poisoning, but whatever. It's fun to know. So, rest is history. They win game 6. in epic fashion, epic Michael Jordan fashion. A lot of people thought that, this was a Jordan documentary. No, I understand it's a Bulls documentary, but because Jordan made the Bulls relevant, he was the one that, started it. Like he said to himself, all it took was one match, light it, light that fire, and everything just follows, and I'm just privileged to be able to say that he was my hometown guy. I got to watch him for as much as I did. I became immersed in finding out about him, learning about him. And it's weird because I'm a guy that can't play basketball. I have no business thinking I can play basketball, but yet he still inspires you in other ways to do other things, to be great, to just do everything you can. Try hard, just to be great, to be the best at what you do, no matter what you do. He said to himself that, he should have inspired people because that's the way he played the game, for people to be inspired by him. And I don't think he meant that in just for basketball, but just in many things. So, that definitely has done that to me anyway. And I just idolize the guy. To me, he's always going to be the greatest. And those Bulls teams are always going to be the greatest to me, no matter what. It is what it is. But yeah, so that game 6, it ended in crazy Jordan fashion, where they're down, 3. They come on from timeout. He scores within 4 seconds, drive to the basket, and then comes down, steals the ball. So like you get that to the basket, your aerial attack that he was known for, Air Jordan. Then he comes down, steals the ball. That's the defensive presence that he had. Dribbles the ball up down the court by himself, makes the play, and hits a big shot. And that last shot, I didn't include it back here, but it is everywhere for me. It's on a shirt. I got it on my watch. I got it on my phone as my background, because it's so iconic. And it was kind of funny that they asked him about it, in after the celebration and stuff, when he's playing the piano, and he's like, yeah, I had to follow through because everything was coming up short. He's like, had to put the motherfucking 2 fingers at you. I thought that was funny. And then of course they asked him there about coming back again. And he's like, yo, like, hold up, let's live in the moment, enjoy the moment. And then he said, come October, they'll figure it out. But as October came around and they didn't stay together. And this team is just really remarkable to me. If you think about it, you have all these weird fitting pieces that just kind of fit and just work together, from Bill Wennington, a Canadian, Steve Kerr, the little white guy that could shoot, Luke Longley, the big Australian. You got Tony Kukoc, the Croatian, that we went over his story of what happened, and what he had to endure when he came over here, and even before in the Olympics, to Scottie Pippen, to not getting paid, to being that star that's way underpaid, to Phil Jackson, this coach that was given a chance, like handpicked to lead the team because they believed in him, and then to Michael Jordan, who, he didn't know what was going to happen. All he did was had hope, and he had dreams, and he had a desire to win, to make the Bulls relevant. And if you go back and look at those interviews, it is so amazing to just see him kind of be that shy kid at the time, that all he said is, I just want to go in there, make an impact, win some games, make the Chicago Bulls relevant, make them well known like the Lakers and the Celtics of those times back then. And he did that. Who knows if he even knew that he was gonna have this impact, or if he was even gonna be the greatest, but he knew damn well that he was gonna work his butt off and try everything he could to do that. And for that, we thank you, Mike, all Chicago Bulls fans, all people who watched you play. We thank you. And, it's my job to remind younger generations, my kids, to let them know who Jordan is. And even today, I was on my Instagram arguing with somebody, one of my friends, about Jordan. I will always defend him and say he's the greatest player ever, because that's just the way it is. Like I said, aside from the basketball aspect, the game, because I can't play, there's just many other memories that I have, with the Bulls, so that's just a very great time for me. And that I got to watch that and enjoy that. I feel very, very grateful, very, very happy on this 10-part series that I'm going to hold on to forever, hopefully, and rewatch it over and over, along with all the games. Rewatch those over and over. This is definitely not going to be the last podcast on the Last Dance, or on the Bulls, or on Michael Jordan. I plan on getting some guests together and getting their thoughts, and I want people to ask me questions so I can kind of fill them in and stuff, from the knowledge that I know, and on the stuff that I know about the history of the Bulls, because I am friends with a lot of younger people who I don't think got to really watch Jordan and stuff like that. So it's fun to let them know, and I just want to hear their reactions and stuff, because a lot of stuff I already knew. It was just kind of a refresher looking over it. I think it was good because they actually got to just let Jordan talk. I don't think he's ever done this type of stuff that in depth before, and talked about all that stuff. So that was great, and how they just interviewed everybody, and it was well done. Again, I wish they would have included more behind the scenes, more them, talking between each other, stuff like that. That would have been spectacular. Like, that's what I wanted to see. We already know the scores. We already know how many championships. We already know how many points scored. All that stuff. We wanted to see more. Maybe they have that. Maybe that is Jordan didn't want that in there. Who knows? And maybe, who knows, in another 10 years, maybe we'll get more of that or something. So, but I'm going to end the video with no music, just because for some reason, this is my background for every video that I've ended, almost every video that I ended. And as you can see, like I said, I took this picture. This was me at the United Center. So in case that's a little backstory of that, and this is just a perfect ending. 6-time NBA championships, Chicago Bulls. This is the Last Dance podcast. We're out. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.